So I will talk about a couple new things in Azure. As So-Young mentioned, I'm a Cloud Developer Advocate. And that's a pretty new role, a new team. So what we really are, we are engineers who are already established in certain technology communities. So for example, I care about Python, Linux, container technologies. And I work with those communities in general to help them solve common problems that people have across companies. It doesn't matter if they want to use technologies from our competitors. It's really about helping the community, and wherever it makes sense to use Microsoft products, I will of course show them cool Microsoft technologies to get the work done. But it's not about selling to them. Of course, I want Microsoft to build great products so that people will always choose our technology. And so I also work with our engineering and product teams to make sure those products are better for the developers of those communities. So for example, better for Python developers, in my case. So currently we're about 50 cloud developer advocates globally. So a couple new things in Azure at the moment. Maybe you've heard of these, and you can definitely ask me later about all of them. There's App Service on Linux, which lets you develop and deploy easily web applications, the Python or Node.js, Java application on Linux infrastructure. Maybe you've heard about Cosmos DB, our highly distributed database that has many different ways to run queries, but Mongo is the new cool, I have to say, maybe hipster NoSQL language you can use, and traditional MySQL, Postgres, managed databases, which are definitely very convenient for your more traditional web applications. And ML, our Azure ML Studio, we kind of solve some of the ML things there. But I really care about containers. And maybe you know about containers, and maybe you don't. If you're interested later, you can talk to me at the roundtable or just come find me. So on Azure, we have many different ways to run containers. There's the web app for containers, and we have Azure Container Instances, and then Azure Container Service, and I think 2 weeks ago we launched Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS. So let's talk about each three of these, and I will try to deploy an app in each three of these technologies in the next 10 minutes or so, hopefully. So Azure Web App for Containers. You can use your existing Linux application, Azure App Service on Linux applications, and have them coexist. But this is about running Docker container applications. A couple details. So let's do a quick demo here of using this. So one thing is we need a little application to work on. So let's make a quick Python application. It's going to be Flask web application. This is just initializing a Flask application. It's a popular framework for Python to create a web application server. So now all I want to do is our index page here. I will just call the function hello MVPs maybe. And then Python, some standard code here in Python is, this is just something that you have pretty much in every Python application. Okay, so this alone should be an application that works. And now let me translate the application to Korean.
Do you know we have two ways? One is formal and the other one is informal.
Yeah.
But you translated into informal, so that's why they are overlapping.
That's right, because developers, we don't need to be formal, right? It's about technology, not about formalities. Okay, so now let's really quick take a look that this application actually works. because I probably messed something up. We'll see. Locally, I can test that this application will work, so it should be able to. Okay, so this runs locally. Now let's put that in a container. So using Docker, I'm gonna call this MVP app, but we can't make it a container yet in the Docker file. I won't type it now because I will definitely mess that up. So I'm going to copy my file here. Just quick thing, if you use Docker, we're just saying this will be a Python application. We're using existing Python container. The application needs this web application port open, and first we're just going to launch a Python app with my little code file here. We can now build this application, this container. Okay, the container is done. Again, I can run this locally. I'm just going to make the port 8080 here, 8080 open. I'm going to run this locally. Now the same application is running as a container. So again, if I refresh this, it won't be exciting. It should be the same thing. Yeah, I refresh it. Now it's running in the container here. You can see my log files. Now it's running in the container. So next, Azure has something to host container images, Azure Container Registry. I already configured Docker to use this. There's this. You can see my password. You won't remember this. Don't take a picture. So yeah, it's too fast. You couldn't see it. So Docker is set up to use this. So now I can just say Docker push. One thing is I have to say, delete my things. Sorry. Now one thing is. In this MVP folder there. So one thing I have to do though is I have to tag this application, giving it a name, my own name. So this application now will be called draft registry, so that's for my container registry. Now I can push this, upload it to Azure, this container. It should be fast because I already pushed on other Python applications, so it knows the code is very similar, so it says they exist, the other dependencies. And this is done, this is in Azure. So now this application is there. So what we can do, for example, to use the web app for Linux, the web app for containers, sorry. You can say create the app. Actually, I just made one, but I'll just show you what you would have to enter here. So all I would have to choose is a resource group. So I have one for App Service Linux. And all I have to say is, okay, now I have an Azure Container Registry already. Pick my registry, pick my image. Let's see, MVP something, the MVP app, and the latest one. All I would have to do is now click OK, and the thing will run. I deployed it a moment ago, which is now MVP app. This doesn't have my Korean code, but I deployed that to something else. So now that was using the app service. We have something called Azure Container Instances, which lets you run a single container, pay only for every second the container is running. It's super convenient, good for temporary workloads. So this one we can actually deploy. Let's see, from the command line. The command is pretty long, so let me resize this here so hopefully you can see this. I do need my password here again, but all this command is doing, it's from I'm using the Azure command line interface, right, which exists, there's a PowerShell version also. I'm creating a Azure container instance with my resource group. The name can be anything, but the image is the same thing that I uploaded a moment ago, the MVP app here. And I need the same port. This will be having a public IP address. I think the name I'm already using, so I'm going to call it MVP app 2 for the moment. And this is all I would have to do. Then the thing will be created. So now it says it's being created. I will have a public IP address. This address, 40.85.153.118. In a little while, this will be where the application is running. Let's see, I called it MVP app 2. Well, it might take a moment. So you can see MVP app. The first one that I created, it would look like this. It succeeded. I have a different IP address. And then if I go there, because it was on port 8080 also, yeah, so it just showed me the hello MVPs. But you definitely want to see that my code actually works, so let me deploy to the last service. That is the most exciting, our new offering. I'm not sure who used Kubernetes here before. It is an open source project started by Google based on the infrastructure that Google uses for managing their applications. Microsoft has a lot of engineers working on this technology as well, because Azure, we want to be the best place to run this technology. It's now basically the standard across all companies for running containers in the data center. And with the Azure Kubernetes service, you only really pay for the resource usage, not the sort of management aspects. So it's very convenient, and we have many great open source tools for making the deployment easier using Azure Container Service and Kubernetes Service. So let me show you this demo really quickly. And all these things, if you don't know what I'm saying, then it hopefully just looks cool. But you can ask me about it later in my session. So there's a great tool we have called Draft. It's an open source project from Azure. So I can say draft create. What this did is it detected that my application was in Python. So now I have a bunch of additional files here, and this is called a Helm chart. Helm is an open source package manager for Kubernetes, which is an open source project itself, created by Deis, a company that Microsoft acquired earlier this year. And that is the industry standard for Kubernetes now. So lots of open source things, but let's use this. So I have configured everything that all I need to do is run this little command draft up. Oh, and apparently the random name assigned to my app is ignoble tuatara. Does anyone know what a tuatara is? I do not know. Let's see. Hopefully it's nothing scary.
I know what it is.
Ah, this thing here.
From New Zealand.
Cool. Nice. So that's my random name. Oh, and the thing is already now deployed, so it's live. So now you can use this open source tool. Actually, if you know Kubernetes, there are many tools. So Helm is the tool to see installed packages, and it says the ignoble tuatara is deployed. I can also use Kubernetes APIs directly. Oops, sorry. And we can now see that this application is running. It doesn't have an external IP because we did a request one, but the draft tool has a nice little ability to let me connect and port forward, and now I can connect to this application as if I were running it locally. This application is actually running in Kubernetes right now, deployed and running, and it works, my code right there. And if you have questions about any of these container technologies, or web apps on app servers on Linux, please come to the roundtable discussion later and we can talk more in depth. Or just even introduction to containers, anything you want.